Finally, a fantasy with the same number worldwide. But the original Super Nintendo version was only released in Japan. There have been several official remakes made, and I'm playing on the original version with the English text from the Game Boy Advance patched in. Alright, Square cooked with this one. The rest of the world was missing out on something special, although I get why this game took time to localize elsewhere. RPGs were only starting to get popular in North America, and Final Fantasy V is very complex. Having played the 4 previous titles, I found the new functions intuitive, since the game combines functions from the other Japanese exclusive games. However, I'll say right off the bat that this is not an ideal Final Fantasy for a beginner. This game feels different from the start. It's the first to open up with a different tune, and the 4-minute intro cutscene has a soundtrack that changes with the events shown. The main takeaway is that the wind has stopped, leaving certain characters stranded in place, and right before you gain control, a meteorite hits the Earth. Your curious character hops on Boko the Chocobo and rides to inspect the scene. Conveniently, it's the symbol for the meeting place of your new characters. You heroically save Lena from a group of goblins, leading to the reveal that the first character's name is Bartz. Bartz is the only character you can rename in the entire game, and after fighting off immature impulses to call him something like Butts or Farts, he kept his original name. Lena was shown in the intro as the Princess of Tycoon, and she set off when her father, King Tycoon, didn't return from his mission. Bartz and Lena realize they aren't alone at the site though. An older man seemingly suffering from amnesia is next to the meteorite. He remembers his name, Galuf, and nothing else. Lena is determined to find her father, and Galuf likes her determination, deciding to follow her and leave Bartz behind. But don't worry, you'll meet up with them again very soon to fight together. I don't love when characters coincidentally meet and go on an unprecedented journey together. It doesn't usually set up a good plot. That said, the plot eventually explains the relevance of these characters very well. This is the first plot of the series that contains significant spoilers, and I want to mention a few things in my evaluation. Half of the review will be spoiler-free, perhaps with minor spoilers scattered in, and I'll leave the major spoilers to their own section. The unlikely trio determines that they need each other because of all the scary monsters out in the world. As seen in every numbered Final Fantasy, battle encounters will randomly happen in the overworld or in dungeons. The active time system is continued from Final Fantasy IV, and I didn't notice anything different about it. Having a party of 3 doesn't change much, and most of the game is spent with a party of 4 anyway. There's funny business going on all around the world, including a cave opening up after the meteorite strike. This reveals a pirate hideout where the gang meets another unlikely ally in Captain Ferris, quickly joining as the 4th warrior. And let's get this awkward part out of the way now. Everyone in the game thinks Ferris is a man, until early on Bartz and Galuf discover he's a she. During the first couple hours of gameplay, there are no major plot developments. It feels lighthearted, even though the immediate quest is to find Lena's dad. You wouldn't expect this game to have a good plot after the characters' coincidental meeting, but it blossoms later and becomes captivating. The first hints of a story arc lead you in the wrong direction as well. While looking for King Tycoon in the Wind Shrine, the party fights off the first boss and enters the room with the fabled Wind Crystal. Rescuing the elemental crystals is just about the only plot that the Final Fantasy games share with each other. Whoops, I think we're too late. It just exploded. Instead of obtaining the crystals or saving them from monsters, it appears that the goal is to prevent more explosions. The world is falling apart already, and losing the crystal powers would unbalance the elements. It's unclear why they're exploding, but the goal is now to locate the others before it's too late. This seems important to Galuf, and he still can't remember why. I can definitely remember why the crystal explosion is important to me, however. The Wind Crystal leaves 6 shards behind, and picking them up unlocks jobs to assign to your characters. This system was previously used in Final Fantasy III, and I really liked it there. Final Fantasy V elevates it much more than I expected. You can now change any character's job whenever you want, without any restrictions. The Wind Crystal's jobs are the same 6 classes introduced in Final Fantasy I, except the Red Mage steps aside for the Blue Mage to make its debut. You'll get more jobs during the game, including many returning from Final Fantasy III, and new advanced jobs like Chemist and Dancer. There are countless ways to play this game, all giving different solutions in how you might tackle bosses. So despite the length of the game overall, it has a higher replay value than most others in the series. It's hard to understand the value of some jobs though. Each of them have their own abilities and set different maximum HP and MP, and some are easier to use in the beginning. I wanted to use the Blue Mage when it became available, and the game itself suggested it would be a useful job to master. The trouble is, you don't start off with any blue magic, and it's unclear how to obtain it, and I left this job behind, which may have been a mistake. I'll figure it out later. The job's complexity is very impressive, and it functions flawlessly, with the only problems arising when you forget about certain abilities. Alongside individual characters leveling up with XP from battles, their jobs are also leveled up by collecting ability points. Each job levels up at a different rate and may have a different maximum level. With each level up, you earn a new ability which can then be assigned to any class. For example, you could play with Faris as a black mage, giving her black magic by default, while also having access to all white magic if she's already reached level 6 as a white mage. There are endless possibilities, but you can only pick one extra ability, which honestly keeps the strategy more interesting. This system is my favorite thing about the game, and once again makes me want to replay it with completely different skills. In fact, the community for this game has created a challenge regarding this, and several players still get involved. The 4-job Fiesta assigns a random group of 4 jobs, and you are limited to them for the whole game. I used a lot more than 4 jobs during my playthrough, so this challenge undoubtedly makes the game harder. Another cool part of the game is the side quests. You have the traditional quests such as defeating certain monsters to obtain their power as a summon, and then there are fun goals like simply playing every piano in the game. Leveling up the piano seems like a cute but irrelevant skill even if you find them all and master it. However, Square found a way to make everything in the game relevant. Completing this quest gives you a powerful song, which is magic primarily used by the Bard class. The main quests are also of a higher standard than before. Everything starts out very innocent, but that allows the story build-up to be more effective. The monsters get tougher, the world gets weaker, and Galuf slowly remembers crucial information. He remembers his granddaughter Kryl when you meet Cid and his grandson Mid. What an unfortunate name. You quickly learn more about everyone's personality too. Lena loves animals and gets poisoned to save a Windrake. The Windrake returns the favor by healing her, and now you get to ride around the world on a dragon. There are several different ways to travel around this world, which is fun, and you can keep up the game's pace by avoiding unnecessary battles. My only complaint is that the primary mode of travel changes too quickly, since the story is a little too obsessed with ruining your transportation. Some changes to shops deserve praise too. The best change is in buying magic. Now you only need to buy a spell once, and everyone will have it, which makes it easier to acquire every spell. Not everyone can use it depending on their job, but as soon as they switch to an appropriate job, they have access. I'm not sure how I feel about time magic. I get why it's a separate thing from Black and White now, but it doesn't have enough spells that are actually related to time. When buying weapons and armor, this game continues to show clearly who can equip each item. Then, instead of equipping everything individually, you can now optimize a character with a new menu option. This is a great addition except for when you get cursed armor later in the game. Take the Bone Mail for example. It auto-equips this because its defense statistic is very high. However, wearing this essentially makes you undead, meaning any healing magic in battle likely results in an instant death. Reviving with a life spell or Phoenix Down won't work either until the battle is over. They tried to make the menu easier to work with, but the optimize feature has too many weird quirks, and the other menus weren't easily navigable either. That's about as far as I can go without giving away the things you should experience for yourself. I don't even want to spoil the notable bosses because they're much more innovative than before too. Skip to the conclusion to remain spoiler free. If you've already played or you're not bothered by spoilers, let's have some fun. Poor old Cid blames himself for the crystals blowing up because he invented machines to amplify the crystal's power without realizing the ramifications. Unfortunately, all of the crystals shatter, or fortunately for the gameplay since more shards lead to more jobs. This was expected, but I'll accept it. At least it's a different spin on the old crystal plot. Now that the elements are weak and unbalanced, what would make it worse? The release of an imprisoned villain, of course. Please welcome one of the most villainous villains of all time. Exdeath has been sealed in the void by the power of the crystals for 30 years with help from Galuf and the Dawn Warriors. There's a lot to unpack in this scene. Before the final crystal explodes, a possessed King Tycoon attempts to attack your party. His daughters won't let Bartz and Galuf hurt him though. And yes, that's 2 daughters. Lena and Faris are long-lost sisters. So who can knock him silly instead? Kryl, Galuf's granddaughter. She arrives on a meteorite, frees King Tycoon of the evil spirit, and causes Galuf to remember everything. What a sweet reunion for Tycoon, Lena, and her true sister Sarisa, and for Galuf and Kryl. Just in time for the crystal to explode and Exdeath to make his grand entrance. He taunts his old rival Galuf and sets the crystal shards to attack, and magically disappears to begin his master plan. King Tycoon sacrifices himself, but with an almighty evil warlock on the loose, there's no time to mourn. That all sounds excessive when isolated, yet it works. The game has had the perfect amount of time to build everything up, teasing things like Ferris and Lena's sisterhood and the meteorites crashing down. Also that Galuf is casually from another world entirely. That's where the first meteorite came from, with an amnesia-inducing landing. I'm not sure exactly how the meteorite stuff works because it also brings monsters to this world. Krile and Galuf are able to use the last of the power supposedly provided by them to get back to their world, and the others find a way to join them shortly after. Thanks, plot convenience, Professor Cid. Galuf's world, also known as World 2, looks like just another part of the Earth. At first that was disappointing, but there's a good reason for this. It's currently in chaos as Exdeath's army battles with Galuf's army, who gets all of his resources as the King of Baal. Yep, he was a king the whole time. Near Exdeath's castle is the site for the Clash on the Big Bridge, the most famous music track in the whole game. It's the theme associated with Gilgamesh, a sidekick for Exdeath. Well, at least he'd like to be if he could earn better respect. He has a habit of running away when things get hairy. Now, the obvious goal is to infiltrate Exdeath's castle, which involves clearing multiple fleets of evil soldiers and breaking the magic barrier. They'll get help from the Old Dawn warriors Kelgur the Wolf and Zizat of Surgate, who once fought alongside Galuf, and Dorgan, father of Bartz. Dorgan sadly died before the events of Final Fantasy V and isn't able to see his son take his place. But now the new warriors meeting seems much less random and more like fate. And soon the Dawn warriors are all replaced because the remaining three all sacrifice themselves on the quest to defeat Exdeath. Zizat intentionally traps himself in when the barrier tower explodes. Kelgur does the RPG thing by using the last of his strength to send enough power for you to see through an illusion in Exdeath's castle. Galuf is already dead before you reach this castle. Like, dead, none of that fake Final Fantasy IV stuff. The Forest of Moor is one of the most haunting locations in the series so far. It's a beautiful forest and I felt uneasy the whole time. You're there because it's where the crystals are held in this world, and I'm thankful that they're all in one place. It happens to be a sentient forest that attacks people who enter, and you have the Guardian branch so it can relax. The monsters are unsettling and the music is mysterious, elegant, and expertly crafted to put you on edge. As it should, because this is also Exdeath's birthplace. 500 years ago, something in the forest grew twisted and evil, and suddenly Exdeath. He's the definition of evil, and he's essentially a tree. With his villainous ways, he falls under the category of slightly ridiculous as well, because it seems like he should be able to kill you on the spot at any moment. He tricks your party into fighting the Crystal Guardians in the Guardian Tree, and abuses the crystal's power to weaken your party. Krile arrives thinking she can stop it, and only puts herself in danger. That's when another sacrifice happens. Galuf gets up and resists the crystal to attack Exdeath, who immediately reduces Galuf's HP to 0. But he won't die until he hurts Exdeath as much as possible, while sustaining several devastating attacks. And that's how Square finally distinguishes between a real death and a fake death. This is very impactful and well scripted, which you wouldn't expect from the lighthearted beginning. As Exdeath retreats to his castle, Krile is in despair, but she'll take Galuf's place in the party. The power from the Guardian Tree transfers all of Galuf's skills to her, in this case making her very talented with monk and ninja abilities. Bartz is finally outnumbered by the girls. The inside of Exdeath's castle appears to be made out of flesh. What a wicked tree. You will want the float spell for this, which is for some reason classed as time magic. I hope you've been keeping up with those spells. The good news is that you're never prevented from going back to look for what you need, at least not until the final dungeon. We're not there yet, even though there's an epic showdown waiting on top of the castle. Gilgamesh attacks first, and genuinely seems sorry to hear that Galuf has died. He reveals his true form, but it's still not enough. Exdeath banishes him to another realm in disgust, and now it's time to take him on as a whole party. And thank you, Square, for allowing me to save in between these fights. We certainly could be at the final battle now. He has his own battle theme that loops after almost 3 minutes, and he's probably the toughest boss yet. He's trying to return the world to the way it used to be, and you wouldn't understand what that means. However, it seems like you can stop him. Upon defeating Exdeath, the party is seemingly flung back to the beginning of the game next to Castle Tycoon. But that's back in the first world of the game. It seems normal though, as the castle celebrates the return of Princesses Lena and Sarisa, much to the dismay of the pirate Ferris. One thing is clear, the game isn't over. Bartz and Krile, who aren't treated as royalty, feel that something is wrong. Why would the battle send them here? Well, following some filler, Krile's random splinter takes its true form once again. It was Exdeath, and he merged the two worlds back together. And now he's going to send everything into the void in his quest to return the world to nothing. Ferris was able to sneak out of Tycoon, the first target, but Lena is still in there as it gets sucked into the void. The plot fairy will bring her back, but for now you'll have to explore the merged worlds with only 3 people. Wandering across locations from both worlds is one of the coolest experiences yet in the series. Tackling a dungeon with only 3 party members is not. In search of the legendary weapons to take down Exdeath once and for all, the heroes seek the elemental lithograph in the Pyramid of Shifting Sandland. Whoops, wrong game, I mean in the Desert of Shifting Sands. Super Mario 64 ripped off Final Fantasy V confirmed. The battles here are slow and obnoxious. The difficulty is appropriate for the end of the game, but the issue lies in the pacing with only 3 party members, and the frequency of battle encounters. I'm relieved that this only lasts for 1 dungeon. It has annoying side effects too, since Lena can't get level ups while away from the party, an unfortunate setback. As always, with those persistent elemental object plotlines, there are 4 lithographs to retrieve. When Lena returns, you can go straight into the Void, which is the final dungeon of the game, and the point of no return. It is of course recommended to go on all the other quests for the level ups if nothing else. There are 12 legendary weapons in the sealed castle, and 1 lithograph allows 3 weapons of your choice to be released. That should cover any job you've assigned to your characters. Speaking of which, I thought I had a solid party setup, but the optional content made me think again. I definitely wasn't fighting these bosses with the optimal setup. They were all very cool and presented innovative gimmicks, but I was getting a thorough butt-kicking. I proved that it was possible to win nonetheless. Lots of luck involved for sure. However, it's a testament to this game that even with a bad group of jobs, there's always a way to battle through to the end. And on the subject of gimmicks, I'd say Atomos had the standout boss gimmick at the top of the barrier tower before the worlds merged. Even with the optional quests completed, the Void Dungeon was extremely tough. Bosses upon bosses, and the points to save are hidden. It begins with a tore-down memory lane with an eerie absence of life in the locations visited, aside from the void monsters, I guess. This leads into a brand new area which has a shiny crystal nature. You want bosses? You get more bosses. Gilgamesh was banished here, and he'll fight you again just for fun. Fortunately, he's easier than last time. I'm not a fan of having to fight another boss afterwards just to have access to a save circle, but it's nice to see Gilgamesh finally take your side and finish off the boss for you. Unfortunate that he sacrificed himself. At last, it's time for the true final battle with Exdeath. I was having fun in the first phase. Then the Twisted Tree takes its shape and brings on a ridiculous final battle. Okay, my party was terrible for this. I didn't have enough options to deal high amounts of damage, and with enough bad luck, you could get wiped out in 1 attack. Staring at this fight with the moving background made me hate this, but unlike with Final Fantasy III, I don't think this is a bad final boss. It's a cruel difficulty spike, but there's always a way to get through it. I'll admit though, I haven't done this the correct way yet. Yes, I had to save state my way through this fight because it was taking forever and I just wanted the footage. The main problem with my first playthrough was not bothering to use a summoner. It didn't seem useful at first. Summons would have saved me here though. It gives better options for higher damage, and apparently there's a summon that fully revives all fallen party members while attacking the enemy at the same time. That's incredibly powerful and certainly would have been useful. Now, before you yell at me for not finishing this game properly, I do intend to at some point, and I would even play through the whole game again using different jobs. This is the longest Final Fantasy to this point, and I would play through it again even with this sour ending. That should speak to how good this game is. So, with those spoilers out of the way, I think I've established that this is a great game. It's easily the best of the first 5. Countless ways to play it, and always a way to get through if you can develop a good strategy. The series truly leveled itself up, and it's impressive that most of it works despite all of the complex new features introduced. Naturally, there were still some things that needed to be ironed out. Only a few problems overall though, in a game that takes over 30 hours. Therefore, my final score for Final Fantasy V will be 8.8 out of 10. I want more people to talk about Final Fantasy V. Those who are familiar often hold this game very highly, and plenty of people call this their favorite. If you're an RPG fan with free time and you haven't played this yet, what are you waiting for? If you're not an RPG fan, firstly I appreciate you watching, or indeed editing, despite that. I wish this could be the game to convince you, but I don't think it is. If you're willing to give it a chance, I recommend a remake instead. The PS1 remake is not recommended by anyone, whereas the GBA remake is solid. The sound quality isn't great, but there are more jobs to try out. The most modern remake is the Pixel remaster on PC and modern consoles. I've played over half of this version, and so far, so good. Since the original SNES version was only released in Japan, I only have one old magazine to dig up. Famitsu's average score was 8.5 out of 10, which is lower than I expected given the previous Final Fantasy scores. I can't read Japanese or auto-translate this page, so if anyone can read this for their criticisms, I'd love to hear them. Tell me, did you agree with the points I've made? What rating would you give Final Fantasy V for the SNES, initially released in 1992? Leave a like so I don't fall into the void, and subscribe so I can be remastered too. As ever, thank you for watching, and please continue to be your own unique self.
Crikey. They've got a lot of HP.
Crikey!
Cry you, mate!